Alrighty, so my name is Nicholas, as you guys already know, and I'm a part of this class, and I'm a general science student, so I don't really have any specialized views on anything yet, I guess. So I just did a broad view of the singularity, the good, the bad, and the singularity, the potential threats and benefits of a superior intelligence. So, what exactly is the singularity? The singularity is the ways of achieving a superior intelligence through technological means. So, as we can see with Moore's law over here, the rate of computational processing speed is increasing by like doubling every year or every 2 years. So essentially, we are on route towards cheaper technologies that can create superior intelligence. Alrighty, some cool examples here. As you can see over here, just in 25 years, we have managed to minimize the size of storage by like the size of my thumb from being like the size of my hand, I guess. And it's about 10 times more capable of storing capacity. That little SD card can carry about 64 gigs to like 120 gigs, where that huge floppy disk can only carry about 500 megabytes. So yeah, just showing you some exponential gains of technology. Another example here is just a supercomputer. You can see that it has greatly doubled in terms of memory, processing speed, storage, and it's even cheaper than what it used to be. And that was just in a matter of 10 years, so that's pretty crazy if you think about it. And just one more example here, just a cool look. The Mac Pro was about $1,600, and it was the size of, my chest, I guess. And now we have an iPhone that's the size of your hand. It can go everywhere with you. You can film, you can listen to music, and you can stream videos, and pretty much do everything that computer could do. So, how does this exactly relate to the intelligence? Well, in order to, first make superior intelligence, we got to define what intelligence is. And so, yeah, intelligence is pretty different among cultures, as you can tell. Asian people tend to rely more on memory capability, analytical abilities, memory skills, carefulness, and modesty in terms of intelligence. And African American people tend to emphasize intelligence with, social competencies, being able to talk with each other. So we don't really have an exact definition of what intelligence is per se. So I like to present it with the meme over there. Asian parents are pretty strict in terms of studying. So Facebook, why don't you Facebook and study, which is pretty funny. And then there's Martin Luther King just conversing with his fellow mates. So yeah. So, but in general terms, most people tend to associate intelligence with, the, combination of the two. So yeah. But at the same time, once again, we don't have a clear, definite answer of what intelligence is. So how are we supposed to define a superior intelligence exactly? Well, machine researchers believe that superior intelligence is rather a form of optimization power. So they'll just be better than us in every way. They'll be able to do things faster, quicker, cheaper, in every way. So that's essentially what's going to be happening. Some potential ways that we might achieve this superior intelligence might be through artificial intelligence, or the enhancement of our own intelligence through software integration or even nanobots. Okay, so then, as we go into enhancement of the mind, some potential benefits that this may cause is that we'll be able to enhance our human capital per se. We can essentially, increase the overall ability of humans by, making them faster, smarter, and stronger in all ways. Therefore, increasing our work abilities and everything like that. What else is there? Let's see. It also prevents the threats of having a rogue AI. I don't know if you guys seen WALL-E or not, but this is the antagonist of the story, and he's essentially programmed so that humans cannot go back to Earth because they felt like it was a bad idea, but then later they realized that they could go back, and he does everything they can to stop them. Thankfully, it's a Pixar movie, and everything has to end well, so he doesn't succeed. Alrighty. Another potential method would be through nanobots once again. We can essentially inject these nanobots into our bodies, and then they'll integrate themselves with our brains, suggestively, and they'll do the exact same thing. They'll increase our human capital in a way and make us smarter and stronger and have us all communicate essentially together as well. Like, how we have iPhones, we connect to each other through the internet and Facebook and all that, but we'll just have that in our minds, I guess, and then we'll all be linked somehow. Alrighty. But at the moment, supposedly, researchers believe that at the rate that we're going at technology, or the rate that technology is increasing, we won't be able to really reach these exactly at the before we reach an artificial intelligence. So exactly what I'm saying here is that other technologies will probably precede these enhancement of intelligence technologies, such as the example of an artificial intelligence. It'll probably be a lot easier to make a framework off of that and then embed it into our systems, but we must probably create the artificial intelligence before we can begin to start enhancing our own intelligence. So some potential benefits of this artificial intelligence is that they have increased computational resources. Our brains are essentially limited to 75 or 85 to 100 billion neurons, and that's just due to our biological size of our brains. Whereas computers can essentially just have a warehouse full of brain sizes, I guess. You could just have an endless amount of neurons computing at the same time, shown by this. That's example, I guess, that I made up. You can have way more volume in a sense. They're also better than us in communication speed. The axon can travel at 75 meters a second, which is about as fast as we can go physiologically, like we top out about that. Whereas for computers, you can just switch out the software and we can just keep upgrading due to Moore's law, and then it'll just keep changing as we go. Right here. Increased serial depth. What I mean by this is that the brain, due to the slow firing speed of the neurons, we essentially have our brains networked in a parallel fashion, so then they can only compute up to 100 sequential operations per second. So that's kind of limiting, but with computer artificial intelligence, we can essentially reach a pattern parallel algorithm augmentation, where it just recognizes everything that's going on and is able to, collect a way higher amount of information and then be able to operate at a way higher rate. Okay. And they're also a lot easier to duplicate. You can merely just copy, your software from one to another and transport it and just do this over and over again. So you can test out from the Matrix. Agent Smith is an AI and he just copies himself endlessly as easy as possible. You can't really do that with humans. That's kind of the one limitation, but yeah. Another thing is the editability. Once again, it's really easy just to switch it out. Once we find new technology to improve it, we can just swap it out just like that. And if it's like a human intelligence enhancement, we have to deal with like the neurosurgery and everything like that, and a lot of complications involved with that. All right, and one last thing that they're better than us at is goal coordination and rationality. What I mean by this is that you can pretty much just program the artificial intelligence to do whatever you want it to do, like just optimize it to however you want, and whereas humans aren't exactly as easy to program, and they're a little bit more messy in terms of getting to the place that they would like to be. So by this picture, we're a little more not as stable and aren't able to, progress as easily as machines are. All right. So then what exactly, oh wait, sorry, missed this one. Here's just another picture showing the computational resources that fast supercomputers have compared to the human brain. You can see they already have a huger size in terms of volume and capabilities of having resources, to work with. One benefit that humans have, though, is that their efficiency is quite a lot greater than ours, or than that of robots and machines. It's about 20 watts, whereas you can see an iPad is only like a fraction of our size and is about 2.5 watts. And yeah, the fastest supercomputer is about 9.9 million watts, so it's quite a bit. So if machines are better than us in every way, what exactly is it in it for us? We'll be able to work with the machines and create this perfect utopia where we'll work together and increase the mankind, have a great human capital and everything, and potentially explore space and everything. Or will we eventually be the cause of a Terminator-like situation where robots will take over and the ultra-intelligent machine could be the last invention that man need ever make? But yeah. At the same time, a researcher at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute believes that this is all due to an anthropomorphic bias, suggesting that we give human properties to that of non-human beings. So, let's say if I were to try and optimize myself to make more money, that the robot will, try to do the same, but that's not necessarily true. Another thing here, an intelligence explosion is another theory that might happen, is to the point where a machine is able to constantly upgrade its own source code over and over again to the point where it's just, it'll exponentially grow and then just become way better than us in every way. That's kind of a scary thought, but yeah. That same researcher from before suggests a friendly AI where we will be able to control the intelligence explosion. By developing a friendly AI, we can essentially just minimize the rate at which they may essentially upgrade themselves, and then, potentially work with them to improve that of mankind. Okay. But overall, these are just theories that aren't exactly 100% sure of what to happen. These are some questions to consider, however. What motives will super AIs exactly have in terms of the future? Like, will they want to work with us, or will they potentially do their own thing? How should enhanced intelligence be regulated? Should we essentially just let it be like Wikipedia and let everyone have access to it and do whatever they'd like? Or should we have, a government intervention where only a select few can have it? Will an AI be rational exactly? What I mean by this is if, let's say, a man were to steal some food for his family and he were to face a jury, most of the time I'm guessing the jury would be able to empathize with him and then give him a lesser reasoning or lesser sentence, whereas an AI will see what is right and wrong and then essentially just give him the full sentence. What will happen to identity? We can already see right now that we're already having troubles with, describing our own identity. Like we don't really know who we are still yet, and just throwing machines and human cross interfaces together just really mixes it up a bit. If we have a person who's half machine and half human, well, he might not be considered a human anymore, and there might be this form of roboticism, I guess you could say. So just another form of racism, I guess. What will happen to our workforce exactly? Since we are already beginning to see that, robots are taking over their workforce. They can do stuff a lot faster and quicker than we can. So it's quite scary. We don't know exactly what's going to come from the singularity. We can already see in China that the workforce is already beginning to become replaced by that of robots. Foxconn, you guys have already heard about this before, but they are replacing 10,000 of their workers with, 10,000 new workers or robots to take over. They can essentially do the job a lot cheaper and a lot faster than most people can. So if this is already on our way towards a singularity, then, what's to come of the future? If, this is already happening. And we're only at the year 2013, I guess. Another picture here is just the way that the world's changing at this rate. 8 years ago, you can see that we don't have any kinds of cameras or computers or anything with us, but now, just in 8 years, everyone has an iPhone, is connected all the time, has pictures, videos, and music recorders at their disposal pretty much everywhere they go. Okay, so then what exactly is in store for us at the singularity? I decided to reference it to that of a quantum physicist, I guess you could say, of that of Schrodinger's cat, where we have a cat that is not dead or alive exactly, but a state of both. So I can relate this to the singularity as we don't exactly have a clue of what's to come. We can just come up with predictions of what may happen in the future or what may happen from the future, or whether it be beneficial or negative. So we're in a sense of limbo, I guess you could say, and then we'll only figure out once we open the box to find out whether see if that's beneficial or not. Yeah, that's pretty much my presentation right there. Yeah, questions?
Okay, any questions?
So, more of a personal opinion question. Do you think it's going to be an overall positive or overall negative sort of thing, or do you think it's just kind of be, living life, or are we going to really notice anything, or are we going to be terminated? What do you think? What's your personal opinion on what that cat will turn out to be like?
Well, I believe, the human race is overall pretty persistent, right? We always just keep giving her whenever we face, some hurdles to pass through. And this, like all the other possibilities, is definitely possible. But I believe that the human race will just keep persisting. We usually find a way of just, digging ourselves out of the hole. So like in terms of like disease, I guess you could say, like smallpox and like SARS and everything, everyone got scared of that, and then we just managed to find a way to overcome that as much as possible. So we'll just keep kind of persisting.
So as long as we keep track of Arnold Schwarzenegger, we should be fine then, right?
Basically,
okay.
pretty much.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
So based on any research you've done, do you think that the singularity is going to occur on like this 2045 like everybody else says it is? Do you think it's going to occur later or possibly earlier than that?
I think, well, Ray Kurzweil suggests that it'll be within the 30 years, or next upcoming 30 years, and that's a pretty good estimate in terms of creating an artificial intelligence, I believe. But in terms of the enhancement of the human mind, I would say it would take a little longer, just because, it seems pretty far-fetched to have nanobots or just an integrated computer chip into our brains and then, have that somehow work with our human biology in a way.
So, Nicholas, is there a way that we can get our heads around being combined with a supercomputer? That is there a way in which our mind could be integrated into a supercomputer? Otherwise, for me, the difficulty is understanding what superintelligence might be. Do you see my quandary? Is there a way in which we can integrate human intelligence and superintelligence in a way that would make them relatable? Do you see anything on the horizon of that kind of nature?
Not exactly, I guess. I hate to give you a vague answer, but I guess only time will tell. I mean, we haven't really experienced any superior forms of artificial intelligence that we can really relate to, I guess you could say. So I guess once the artificial intelligence comes, and then once we can try interacting with it, will we really figure out, I guess.
But we have, in fact, hooked people's minds up to certain kind of circuitry to increase their ability to understand some things already. So, I mean, isn't it technically possible that we could hook the human mind into a computer that both we could understand and the supercomputer could understand us? Is that not theoretically possible? And is that not a goal that we could work towards in terms of integrating humans and supermachine intelligence?
No, I think that's definitely a goal that we should work towards. And yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, anything is possible. Clearly, you can tell from the singularity, I mean, with our computational powers increasing and everything.
But you don't think that's going to take place by 2045?
No, I believe that in artificial intelligence, just the creation first will occur, but I guess maybe towards the later part of the 2045, we'll have the actual combination of the two. Seems more reasonable time frame.
So isn't it all about timing and timing gaps? So if the sentient computer, much smarter than we are, exists before the capability of us combining with it in some way, doesn't that write us out of the future? Or how do you see things proceeding if the machines are much smarter than we are and evolving much more quickly, and if there's no way for us to merge with or combine or effectively cooperate, they're thinking so fast that we can't understand what they're doing, we can't possibly keep up. So then we become like ants or grasshoppers, right? And so maybe they won't actively seek to eliminate us, but we're written out of everything interesting for the future, which is kind of gloomy, right? So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, anything is possible. I mean, from what one of the researchers wrote is that we do create the friendly AI, which could potentially work with us, and that's probably one of the better bets to, a positive relation between the singularity and us, I guess you could say.
On the topic of kind of AI brain interfaces, do you think that it's more plausible that we'll just be able to do things better, like we'll have more memory, faster processing and whatnot, or will there be new ways of being, like, that we just can't comprehend right now because we're not linked up to a supercomputer? Will we just be better at what we do now, or will we be completely different? What do you think?
I'm guessing the sooner we get to the enhancement of the intelligence, I guess, we'll just eventually just keep getting better at the things we do, and to the point where, you know, who knows if we become full robots or full intelligence, or we'll just do our own crazy own things like discovering, you know, new vaccines and everything, helping the mankind, I guess. So anything's really possible, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. You know, you don't really know until we get there. I mean, people can really theorize and come up with hypotheses, but at the end of the day, we're only going to figure it out once we're there. So, yeah, no problem.
So there's probably a danger to asking you this question, but do you see a potential role for, a larger role for physicians in the future, or do you think they will be outmoded and just they will have to be put out to pasture? You know, this idea of medicine writ large, where we'd reach a point where a doctor's skill is mainly used to, you know, enhance normal humans, that it's no longer applied to sickness very much because there's not very much sickness. There's a lot of people who want to be enhanced as machines get smarter and smarter. So does it make sense to you that physicians would have a special role there? Or is it really computer scientists? You know, is it somebody, you can imagine, you know, it's a little bit like China, isn't it? That for a certain period of time, the status of a taxi driver was very high because they had contact with tourists, and China was trying to kind of, you know, embrace the tourism industry. So there was no question at a certain time when I visited there that physicians had a lower status than, you know, taxi drivers, just because the way that things were flowing at that time. Do you think that will happen again, or do you think that medicine could somehow morph to still have you know, prestigious, important role in society, even if, you know, diseases are not really the challenge? The challenge is we're so darn stupid, we can't, you know, evolve quickly, and the, you know, machines are getting much smarter and making all sorts of enormous changes in the world, and we don't have a clue what's going on. So does medicine have any role in that, or do you think it's sort of stupid to think that, you know, physicians' training would be expandable in this way?
So are you trying to say that, like, should physicians still stick around in the future, I guess?
Yeah, yes, or should we just quit, you know? Okay, medicine's over, we're done, yeah.
Well, I mean, this is kind of a vague comparison, I guess, but, like, you know, we still have manual cars, manual transmission cars, I mean,
Right.
and automatic cars, and people do prefer to have a manual car, you know, just for the thrill of it, I guess.
Right.
In a sense, we could still have human physicians where, you know, they'll be able to build rapport and have more of a connection with their people, you know, with their peers, their patients, I guess. And we could essentially have another group, I guess, with machine intelligence diagnosing people. So I guess you can just
Yeah.
have two forms.
There are surprises out there, though, aren't there? What James Hughes, if you look at his teaching session from last term, he pointed out that two of the jobs in society that most people predict that machines could never replace. One is psychotherapists, and the other is, you know, prostitutes. That they think that, you know, but actually those are the ones that will be replaced first. That it's quite obvious, for instance, in psychotherapy, there are certain settings where you'd much rather tell your story to a kind of
Unbiased kind of thing.
yeah, unbiased, a machine that doesn't judge you and all this kind of thing. So trying to say that we'll always like flesh and blood physicians because they'll have features that machines won't have. As long as those features can be described in words and algorithms, and we can build them into machines. We can make the most caring, sensitive machine that you want. Yeah. So I don't know if that's really the argument. I guess the other side of it is whether you think that physicians can be trusted with this larger power of going beyond the treatment of a disease to helping to enhance human beings, to enhance society. If physicians are really an honorable group of humans, well, that's great. But if they're not, then we should find somebody else. There should be a new category of human enhancement specialists and specialists in improving society, and maybe it wouldn't have anything to do with physicians. So, any thoughts about this?
I just have a thought in regards to your will physicians be obsolete? I think that even with all the advancements we have now, we still refer to traditional doctors and midwives and all those traditional aspects that don't incorporate any technology, and people still choose those routes. So if the singularity were to happen, then I don't think doctors would be obsolete, because I think a lot of people might actually prefer that if they were, scared of machines, or they were scared of technology and the harms that it could potentially create. So they might actually go back to the traditional roots of the white lab coat physician and do the stethoscope instead of a little chip in your head. That's my comment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess also, if the position of a physician becomes less valuable, and I guess the money value will drop, then you'll get more people who are really, into it, I guess, trying to pursue their roles as being a practitioner.
Yeah,
So,
and of course, longevity will increase, so you could have some really old physicians too. So it's not just the new ones you have to think about. Yeah. So. Okay, we've got 4 minutes. Any other?
I kind of talked a little fast, so I got through it really quickly.
No, that was fine. I think it's kind of nice to have a relaxed day. Most of the teaching sessions, I'm constantly watching the clock, because there's actually more to do than we can possibly fit in, the 80 minutes. So today isn't like that. And actually the past 2 sessions have both been more relaxed in that way. So anyway, thank you very much, and